We are anonymous. We are a network of watchers, analysts, and former soldiers who have seen how wars are fought in the dark. We do not serve flags or parties. We serve facts, evidence, and the patterns that governments and generals try to hide. Tonight, we will tell you the full story, the one hidden behind headlines and official statements. Listen carefully. This is the story of how energy became a battlefield, how pipelines became targets, and how logistics are deciding the future of this war. It began with fire in Crimea. Russia's largest oil terminal in the occupied peninsula burned for days. 16 fuel tanks destroyed, massive explosions echoing over the sea. Pictures and videos online show black smoke covering the sky. 2 days after a Ukrainian drone strike, the flames were still alive. Thousands were evacuated. This is the new normal for Russia, fire and smoke on their own soil, far from the front lines. Every single day, somewhere in Russia, there is an explosion, a refinery, a depot, a pumping station. Something burns. Russian civilians now wake up to smoke in the distance and act like it is normal. They go to work, pick up their children, and pretend life goes on. But deep inside, they know something has changed. The war is inside their country now. Ukraine is not stopping. Drones have reached targets hundreds of kilometers away from the front. In Bashkortostan, refineries burn again and again. There are 3 or 4 refineries in that single district, and Ukraine strikes them almost daily. In Volgograd, in Samara, in Saratov, the same pattern repeats. Each refinery fuels Russian military operations. By hitting them, Ukraine cuts the lifeline of tanks, trucks, and aircraft. The campaign is not random. It is precise. Ukraine knows exactly what it is doing. Every refinery that goes offline affects both the battlefield and the Russian economy. When one facility stops working, fuel prices rise, transportation slows, and regional supply chains collapse. Russia cannot fix everything at once. Sanctions make repairs difficult. Spare parts are missing. Skilled technicians are busy or gone. Every strike adds weeks or months of delay. And even when a fire is put out, the system remains wounded. The economic damage is measurable. Russia's fuel exports are now at their lowest level since early 2022. In the first 10 days of October, daily exports fell to about 1.8 million barrels. But the problem is not only volume, it is also price. Russian crude now trades at a discount, $10 to $15 below global benchmarks. Global oil prices are already low, around $61 per barrel, the lowest in 4 years. That means Russia earns less from every barrel it sells. It is a double blow, less fuel and less money. International experts say Russian refineries will not recover before mid-2026, and that is only if Ukraine stops. But Ukraine will not stop. The strikes have proven effective, and every explosion weakens the machine that fuels Russian aggression. Far from the front, another attack shows the reach of this campaign. Over 700 kilometers from Ukraine, a drone hit a substation that powers pipelines and rail systems. Satellite fire data confirmed the blaze. The substation supplied energy to gas infrastructure and railways used for military logistics. Once damaged, fuel movement slows, trains stop, and the entire network trembles. Ukraine is cutting nerves, not just muscles. The result is a slow economic strangulation. Less energy, fewer exports, shrinking revenue. Russia's war chest is drying up. The country that once bragged about being an energy superpower is now burning its own fuel in the sky. But while Ukraine advances in precision and strategy, Russia turns to terror. On state television, officials and propagandists call for total destruction of Ukraine's energy grid. They speak openly about wiping out every power plant, every dam, every bridge, to make the last light bulb go out. They claim this is the most humane way to end the war. It is madness disguised as strategy. Their words reveal fear. They cannot win on the battlefield, so they attack civilians. For over 3 years, they have tried to freeze Ukraine into surrender. They failed every winter, and they will fail again. Ukrainian citizens are prepared. Journalist Maria Abdivas wrote, We have our gas burners, our batteries, our sleeping bags. We have done this before, and we will survive again. That spirit is what Russia can never destroy. Meanwhile, the front lines remain brutal. Reports describe wave after wave of failed Russian assaults, fields covered with destroyed armor, and bodies tangled in razor wire. In one desperate attempt, Russian commanders detonated an ammonia pipeline, releasing a toxic cloud that endangered both sides. It achieved nothing but chaos. These are the acts of a collapsing army, reckless, cruel, and desperate. Footage online shows the same scenes repeating. Broken tanks, burning trucks, soldiers running into ambushes. Each attack looks like the last one. Commanders keep ordering assaults into minefields and kill zones. It is slaughter without purpose. Ukraine, on the other hand, adapts. It uses small teams, networked drones, and real-time intelligence. Modern warfare favors speed and flexibility. Russia's command is slow, rigid, and trapped in Soviet habits. That is why their losses are growing faster than they can replace them. In politics, new cracks appear. NATO ministers talk about deterrence, counter-drone systems, and more aid for Ukraine. The United States considers sending 20 to 50 Tomahawk missiles, not enough to change the war alone, but enough to send a message. Each missile would be a signal that Russia's deep rear is no longer safe. Ukraine promises to use such weapons only against valid military targets, not civilian ones. The symbolic power is immense. Zelensky understands that this is more than a military game. It is political chess. By negotiating with Western leaders, by showing restraint and professionalism, he strengthens Ukraine's legitimacy. If Trump truly sent Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, it would end his strange friendship with Putin. But politics is full of illusions. Even as American officials talk about peace through strength, backdoor phone calls between Trump and Putin continue. The shadow of corruption remains. Trump's obsession with Putin is not about peace. It is about money, deals, influence, and future projects with Russian oligarchs. He dreams of business, not democracy. Every conversation with Putin is another step away from American integrity. And while leaders play games, soldiers die on both sides. That is why Europe has stepped up. The United Kingdom delivered 85,000 drones to Ukraine in 6 months. Germany pledged more than $2.3 billion in military aid, including Patriot systems. The Netherlands sent funds for drone production. Finland and Slovenia joined joint weapon programs. Denmark announced a $170 million package. The message is clear. Europe will not abandon Ukraine. At the same time, ordinary Americans protest against authoritarianism at home. They see how quickly democracy can fall. Reports from Chicago show violence by armed officers against innocent civilians. People with darker skin, attacked in daylight. Families living in fear. This is what happens when fascism rises again. The same ideology that drives Russia's war infects parts of the West. Hatred disguised as patriotism. When Homeland Security posts one word like remigrate, it echoes the language of ethnic cleansing. It signals to extremists that racism is now policy. These movements glorify dictators, wave swastikas, and dream of purging non-white citizens. And all of this grows under the watch of those who once claimed to defend freedom. The line between war abroad and tyranny at home is thinner than people think. But there is still resistance. Americans, Europeans, and Ukrainians share one common fight: the defense of truth and human dignity. Every protester, every journalist, every soldier who refuses to bow to lies keeps democracy alive. Back on the battlefield, the logic of the drone war evolves. Ukraine has shown that small, cheap machines can destroy expensive targets. An FPV drone that costs a few $100s can take out a tank worth millions. A fleet of autonomous boats can threaten warships, once thought untouchable. This new era of warfare is rewriting military doctrine. Commanders around the world are watching closely. The age of heavy armor is giving way to the age of data speed and swarm tactics. Russia, built on outdated military pride, cannot adapt fast enough. Corruption drains its army. Morale sinks. Factories cannot keep up with losses. Soldiers fight without clear purpose. Commanders order attacks only to show Moscow they are doing something. The result is predictable. More graves, more broken machines, more resentment. Inside Russia, silence grows. Citizens are told not to record explosions, not to share videos. Those who do face arrest. But the truth still leaks online. Fires at depots, explosions at power plants, smoke rising over cities, all captured by ordinary people. The Kremlin wants darkness. Anonymous and independent journalists bring light. Strategically, Ukraine's energy war is reshaping global economics. When Russia exports less fuel, global markets shift. Asian and Middle Eastern buyers look elsewhere. Supply routes change. Insurance costs rise. Each explosion in a refinery changes numbers on oil exchanges in London and New York. This is how modern war works. It touches everything, from the front lines to your gas pump. Some analysts fear that energy instability could push certain countries to pressure Ukraine into negotiations. But that would only freeze the conflict, not end it. A wounded dictator with time will rebuild and return. The only sustainable peace comes when the aggressor is disarmed and the occupied lands are free. At sea, Russia's navy also faces humiliation. The Kilo-class submarine that malfunctioned and surfaced near France is a metaphor for the entire Russian military, noisy, outdated, and limping home. It was a diesel-electric vessel, not nuclear, but still a key asset. Now it is escorted by NATO surveillance planes and ships, exposed to the world. If it were near Ukrainian waters, it would already be gone. But Ukraine respects boundaries that Russia ignores. That moral difference matters. So where does this war go next? The pattern is clear. Ukraine will keep striking deeper. Russia will keep trying to terrorize civilians. The international community will keep debating lines that have already been crossed. The real question is endurance. Who can sustain their strategy longer? Ukraine fights for survival. Russia fights for pride. History shows which side usually wins that kind of war. We must understand that modern conflict is not only fought with bullets. It is fought with servers, satellites, cameras, and code. Information is the new weapon. Propaganda kills truth before bombs kill people. That is why Anonymous exists, to show what is hidden, to reveal the logic behind the chaos. Every burning refinery tells a story of precision, patience, and defiance. Every blackout in Ukraine tells a story of courage, adaptation, and solidarity. Every act of terror from the Kremlin tells a story of desperation. This war will define the next decade of global security. If Russia collapses under the weight of its own aggression, dictators everywhere will think twice. If it survives unpunished, the world will learn the wrong lesson, that brutality still pays. That is why the truth must keep spreading. We are anonymous. We are not soldiers, but we fight with information. We are not politicians, but we understand power. We are not journalists, but we tell what others are afraid to say. The war for truth is as real as the war for territory. If you have watched this far, remember this: the front line is not only in Ukraine. It is wherever truth is threatened. It is on your screen, in your community, in every conversation that chooses honesty over silence. The more people who know the facts, the fewer lies can survive. Share this story. Talk about it. Support the people who resist tyranny, whether they hold a rifle, a camera, or a keyboard. The light of truth is the only weapon that dictators cannot destroy.